Hours with Lorilei. So I have a new setup today, and it's Therapy Thursday. So I just wanted to come on. I'm really not sure who's going to come on today, but I wanted to come on a little bit more regular basis. And again, the purpose of my channel is to give us a safe place to unwind, a safe place to notice things without having to completely tear them apart or take them apart. It doesn't even have to be a focused reason for us to be together. This is kind of a transition week for us. What do you do with your transition week? So the transitions for us are my husband is a full-time high school teacher of science. So he has one more day of finals tomorrow. They had 3 half days. We also have my oldest is in college, and so her college let out about 3 weeks ago. So they've been doing a lot of moving, helping their friends move, having some get-togethers, celebrating the end of the year. My youngest is in high school, completed junior year, so they have their senior year to go. And so this is their first full week they've been out, so they're kind of finding their way through things. This week I'm finishing up my training for my volunteer work. So I'll be volunteering for Youth Outlook, and so that's a really amazing organization that is centered here in the Illinois, Chicago area, but also is, because of COVID, they offered programs online, but they provide a safe place for LGBTQ and neurodiverse individuals to come and have their safe space together. They do fun things, they do entertaining things, and of course they do educational things, they do art projects, and anything that the people that come to the group, to the club, are interested in. They can ask for yoga, they've asked for meditation, they've asked for a lot of different things. So it's really a great place to dedicate our time. With Pride Month coming up in June, there are so many activities to be seen, so many ways for allies to support, any level of support. So I'm looking forward to that. That's also, that includes, researching how do we support ourselves and individuals in our home and our community that are within that neurospiciness. And so many of us are still, within our own either families of origin or places in which we were raised that were high control. They were low in being able to provide that nurturing and that self-confidence in allowing us to really build our inner leadership. A lot of the families that we come from and that we kind of come together with were those tenuous environments. So as an adults and as young emerging adults, and raising kids in a healthy environment, and coming together to figure out what that is, because it is a challenge as a parent. It is a challenge to raise kids in an environment when you didn't have that environment yourself. And it's completely not impossible. It's just that when you were raised in a place where you were being taught that you need to follow the rules and there was punishment if you didn't, there was no opportunity to find out who you were and what skill sets that you had, or what your interests were in developing that. So those are the kinds of things that we do, and we bring in some interest in metaphysical things, which is also kind of a touchy ground, because I have really been in the throes in the last few years of putting together all my experiences and trying to really look at how can we structure an environment that is in control, that gives people the experience to create with their own ideas, and then learn through cause and effect, to be able to have an idea and just, it's just like an experiment, or the way I envision it's like an inventor's laboratory, because anyone who's ever made a huge advancement in medicine and psychology, in taking care of our earth in a positive way, they've done it because they did something that other people didn't think to do or didn't do, right? So there is this point in which you kind of, I think we all have the potential inside of us, and that rather than saying, oh, what is your answer to this question? And 9 people out of 10 have the same answer, but you have a different answer. Well, the way that I look at things is like, it's really important that you be able to have the inner support to be able to share what that is, because that is the way forward. Because when you're willing to contribute your viewpoint, what you see and what you're willing to create in a different way, it moves things forward. Okay, we're not here to repeat what's already been done. Again, we are here to dig deeper into ourselves and to find these things that maybe weren't specifically taught to us, but things that we see, insights that we have, and that we're capable and able to really validate ourselves to keep moving forward. Because when you think about all those inventors, you think about all those cutting edge people, you think of all those Nobel Peace Prize researchers, that they were able to do that because they didn't depend on other people to validate what they did, but because they had an ideal and they were committed to moving towards that. And if something didn't work, they learned from what didn't work, and then they set things up again to focus on what they wanted, have their ideal, have their goal in mind. We're very much the same way. So this really is about how to live and give yourself that self-confidence, to be able to look at yourself honestly too, to be able to say, that really was not the choice that was going to be in my best interest. That was not a choice that was going to further my goal. But you know what? I did do that, and I accept that, and there's a reason for it. And if you feel like you need to forgive yourself, or you just need to see yourself and say, if one of my friends did that, I could easily forgive them. So forgiving your friend and knowing that it's you who did that. It doesn't really matter where those learned patterns of self-criticism came from. It does matter if you have tried a few things and you're not able to kind of move forward. There's something that's sticky, or there's something that's sharp, there's something that feels it's tugging at me. Sometimes I call that like quicksand, like, oh, I want to get rid of that. I'm done with that. I'm done with feeling that way. I'm done with feeling I'm the only person that is, doing this thing that's really important for us to do, that I see I'm the only one that has that. But that's okay, because I'm going to do it because it feels good to do it. I'm going to do it not because I need the support of other people. I'm going to even have to ignore some of the other people that are stepping in the room who are saying, that are saying it can't be done. Or those people are really projecting their own fear of rejection on you. And so we notice it, and that maybe all we need to do is just notice it flying by, like sitting on an edge of a river and watching it go by, or pulling it out of our thought field and setting it down like a beautiful white flower or yellow or purple flower, and then send it on its way. Taking those things that are no longer fitting for us, things that have been incorporated into, it could even be corporate culture, it could be any of that. And so it's really about grounding ourselves, doing the things that are going to make us healthy. Some of the other things I was thinking about too is those well-placed efforts. It's those good things that we do to keep ourselves healthy, like getting adequate sleep and finding a way to really preserve that and make that a priority. Even if that means, like for me, oftentimes it does mean that my partner and I have different sleep schedules. And so because of that, like I'm more naturally, the sun goes down and kind of like my brain shuts down, my nervous system shuts down, and like I'm ready to go to bed. But then the minute the birds chirp before the sun starts rising, I'm ready to get up. I'm ready to see what's out there, and I'm excited most of the time to bring on the day. And it's completely fitting because my partner is a stargazer, and my partner is always watching what's happening in the sky, and my partner loves to go out at night and just watch and sit and even draw what's happening. So we each have our sun and moon kind of niche, and it's all being fulfilled, but we get to do it in a way that works for us, and then in a way that works for us together, getting a quality sleep, each other getting the private individual time that we need, and then having, our time together. So I'm really looking forward to the summer because we'll have, opportunities to do that. So what else? Have a few more minutes. I hope the mic is okay, and it's newer, so I'm hoping that's going to work out better. I mean, some of the other things, like I would say that regarding dreams, do you guys remember your dreams? Did you guys have dreams when you were a kid? Most people remember nightmares. Like, unfortunately, the things that grab our attention are the things that scared us, the things we didn't understand. Did you have parents telling you that dreams didn't mean anything because they didn't mean anything to them? Did you have a friend, or did you have a friend's mom who was like really into dreams, and she was a person, or he was the person you went to talk about dreams, or to at least listen to what they had to say? I was the kind of kid that I remembered my dreams, and I often would draw pictures of my dreams or write about my dreams. Not that I ever understood what my dreams meant, but they seemed really important. They were always consistently happening. It didn't seem like I had to even turn on that dream muscle. I think it also, like I said, I think it's really helpful that I'm just the kind of person that likes to have a set schedule, and that set schedule is pretty harmonious with my natural environment, and it's pretty harmonious with just naturally getting to bed 9:30 or 10. They say the more hours that you have to be able to sleep before midnight, the science shows that will give you a better quality of deep sleep. We dream in 90-minute cycles, and that's another thing too, is if you're looking for deeper sleep patterns, so maybe you go to sleep at night and you get 6 to 8 or 10 or 12 hours of sleep, but you still wake up feeling a little foggy, feeling like, did I even sleep last night? It's because you're missing that deep, rejuvenated sleep that we see in the rapid eye movement stages. And that's also the times in which we dream. And did you know animals dream? They do. There's also been some study with not only our animals, because we can see what happens to them and when they're dreaming, and we can see their eyes moving. Sometimes my animals, my dogs especially, have their eyes open. It's so crazy, but it's true, and you can see that rapid eye movement happening. Or have you ever you had a friend or a partner that says, oh, I never remember my dreams. And but then you're going to sleep at night and you wake up and you hear them talking in their sleep and you realize it's a dream, and so you listen to try to tell them, oh yeah, I did catch you dreaming, I heard you talking in your sleep and this is what you're talking about. Or yeah, I've had partners like that, and then often I'll say, the tone seemed really chill. It seemed like you were talking to a friend, or you seemed really intense about, you needed to communicate something and you weren't shouting, but it was like you really seemed intense what you were saying, or you were answering somebody and having this long conversation as well. So recently I had a time period where I didn't remember my dreams. I was surprised. So it was 10 days. And then 2 nights ago, I remembered this really epic dream. It was epic. Have you ever had epic dreams? Do you dream in like movies where you could just like write the script? People have taken dreams and written books, created masterpieces, and created it for the basis of a movie. Yeah, so if you have dreams like that, you should write it down and see what you can do with it. Some of the best things creative endeavors have come from dreaming and from meditation and from going beyond what we see, think, feel, and exist, to move into that field of knowing that not everything has been created. I mean, do you think there's an answer for everything? Maybe there's a better way. Does society really value doing things that are going to be better for the earth and better for us? No, because we could see this in like fossil fuel, right? So if we really, as a whole, as humanity, had as our individual like purpose and what is that? The raison d'etre, reason for being, to live in harmony, to create things that will be useful and dynamic for us and for the earth and for the world, then fossil fuel would have been put aside a long time ago, but it wasn't. What's artificially in place? Artificially in place were the oligarchs and the people who have over so much time and money and power and control into making sure that anything that was going to be revolutionary, that wasn't going to be dependent and wasn't going to be the ball and chain, that it either got bought out or that it got put away. And there you can do your research. There's a lot of documentation about this, and here we are today. Those things could easily be done. So let's, I guess, understanding that something did happen, and let's understand that it's not going to stop us from moving forward. The things that you always have is your ideals, you have your character, and you have your creative imagination. And when you do something for yourself which is healthy, and when you combine that with doing what's in the best interest for all concerned, it's not limiting, that's expansive, that celebrates diversity, that celebrates our uniqueness. It doesn't homogenize things. These patterns of control, these patterns of neglect, these patterns of might makes right, these patterns of brutalizing other people, and brutalizing ourselves by inflicting that kind of pain on ourselves. Like, we can choose a different way. We have to start with ourselves, and we have to really find our own inner guidance. And it's going to take some time to fine-tune that. Unfortunately, you're going to find out that what you thought you believed for yourself was something someone else fed to you, or something that you had to believe in order to stay safe in your environment, or in order to keep a job that people were depending on you. Sometimes we are, absolutely there's a reason why we did these things, but there is always a way to kind of back it up, to rearrange it, and that is not from a point of view where you're trying for instant satisfaction. Like oftentimes, if there is something that you're wanting to build, the first thing to do is to get stability within yourself, an internal clock. Discipline doesn't have to be rigid. Discipline could be loving. It has to be a different way to move ourselves forward. Sometimes it's stepping to the side. Sometimes it feels like it's taking a step back. You have to find out what is going to work for you, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't work for other people. It doesn't matter if 10 other people can't use it. The idea is that you have to find your way, your tools of supporting yourself, of making your decisions, even if it's might even look like minimizing risk and maintaining an efficiency. Okay, part of that may be learning how to have a better impulse control. There's a lot of things that come up with that, like are we buying things on credit? And again, we're not trying to marginalize, or we're not trying to shame people, but we're saying if you have recognized that, and when I was young I recognized that, is that there was a time in which I did start putting some things on credit card and I didn't pay them off, and honestly they were things that I did in order to get furniture for my new apartment. I didn't have any furniture. There's a lot of things I didn't have, and so I was buying them, purchasing them and putting them on my credit card, and it wasn't anything big or crazy. But I realized in a short amount of time that I didn't like that feeling, and I didn't like not having the freedom to be able to have all my bills paid. I was living from, paycheck to paycheck at that time. I was going to school full-time at college at night, and then I was working during the day, and having gone through roommate situations that didn't work out was the first time in which I had gotten a one-bedroom apartment, and it took everything that I had to maintain my car, my insurance. Again, this is when we were eating ramen and getting 99-cent nylons because we had to put on makeup and wear our nylons. There was things that were expected of us every day that people that don't even think that was something that was kind of like, it was culture. It was our culture. So anyway, I did work a second job, and I worked a second job, and that second job was laundry money, and it was food, and it was anything extra. And then I worked another job, and again, on top of, I worked 2 part-time jobs, a full-time job, and I went to school full-time and maintained my, GPA. But again, I was excited. Like, we can do tough things when we know the purpose behind it. I knew why I was doing what I was doing. So pretty quickly, I no longer put stuff on my credit card. I worked this third job. That third job was, the only intention with that money was to pay off my credit card debt. And as soon as the debt was paid off, then I no longer had to work that job. So that worked out really well. But by the time I got done, by the time I was working full-time and going to school full-time, and I had at least one part-time job, because the money that I was making was good for my education experience. It still wasn't enough to put a little bit of extra, into my savings account and start saving, because at that time I realized, I was like 21, that I was like, okay, I've got to at least start building some kind of savings account. I had started looking at finance books. I had started saying how much do I need to save, how much you need to spend, and started looking at doing that in a responsible way. And so that is one way that helped keep me from going into any kind of major credit card debt. The only debt that I had is, again, I had debt for my car, which wasn't a great choice, but unfortunately I had gotten into that, not over my head, but we never did that again. It's been 30 years, and I never did do that again. That we have paid for all of our cars, and we've just had used cars and gotten our way to save money until we could get a newer car. And it's really only been in this last 6 years. It took us about 20 years before we ever got a car that was less than 10 years old. But we did buy a brand new Honda in 2004, and it lasted till 2025. And we had that car with no major breakdowns. That was the best investment we ever had, but that was when my husband and I had come together, and by that time I was like, I want to attract somebody who is good with finances, and the best way to do that is to make sure that I'm good with finances, and that I have no credit card debt, and that I'm being responsible with my choices. That's kind of where I was at, where it's like, the law of attraction. So that is one of the things, again, that was a really good piece of advice that I took, and I ran with it, and I could see an immediate benefit. So yeah, the first car that we purchased, we paid cash for, and it's just such an amazing reminder of pushing ourselves a little bit harder. I had a lot of people that I worked with at the time, and they didn't do anything super crazy, but their husbands, mostly, could have been the wife, but this happened to be the husbands, every 5 years they had to have a new car because they felt like they weren't making it if their car was too old. And I'd never heard of this. I never knew that you could have a car that wasn't paid off, and that you could go and get a new car and just roll the debt from the old car into the new car. Now, I'm not even sure if they do that anymore, but that is financial abuse that is being offered through credit card companies and through any banks that are willing to do that, because there obviously was a point in time in which there was not financial abuse going on, and you could not do that. It was almost a fail safe, but things that started changing in the banking industry started in finance. And yes, you can see on the one hand they should have known and they shouldn't have done that, but on the other hand, we've all heard about predatory lenders, and we've seen credit card the interest rates on credit cards go from 8%, 10%, 20%, 23%, and again, it's a matter of getting support. I'm going to say it comes from support. So maybe if that's what your family did, maybe they just put everything on credit card. Maybe your family was in a different financial position. Maybe your family inherited money, and so they had this extra money, and they didn't have to really be concerned about it. Maybe they get to the end of their life and they have nothing because their whole life they lived in debt, in debt to other people, and they didn't really have the freedom, and we know that just a lot of people have, and again, it's no shame, it's just an understanding that there have been people that have had to claim bankruptcy, and whether that's through having medical bills that insurance they didn't have the coverage for, or that it was some astronomical price for medical treatment that was life preserving, and that no one had another choice to pay for something different, right? So these are kind of big real world things that we have going on in our world, and so this is a place in which we can think about some of these things, and if these things are things that you think about that you can relate to, then this is maybe a good place for you to come back and check, and if not, well, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate the numbers. I appreciate helping this channel generate some more traction, because I'm really not about the numbers game, but I am about having a place where people can come for real conversations, and also a place that we're going to learn about what it means to be, what it means to have diversity. I guess that's the last thing before I go here, is that you have to know what it is that you want, and you may fit in different groups. Here's an example. So, and all of this is valid, all of this is legit. So there are some individuals that all they want is to be around people who think like them and who look like them and who are going to agree with them. And I'm like, everyone has the ability to create that kind of space. And as long as you're not generating hate, and as long as you're not attacking other people, but you're just a group of people, and you like soccer, and you like drinking lemonade, and this is what you love to do, then that's what you should do. You shouldn't be like, oh, don't watch soccer. We are only baseball. We're a good American baseball family, and we only watch, a certain thing. But you get what I'm saying. And that's like a fair example of that. There are other people who actively reach out and seek other people's point of view, to listen to that point of view. And listening doesn't mean that we have to agree, but listening helps us understand that in this world that we live in, there is room for lots of points of view. And it makes us stronger, and it makes us resilient, not to have to attack somebody just because their point of view, right? And also being able to listen to ourselves and be able to present our points of view. Now, you might have been involved in the debate team, right? This is one of the first places that I learned about it. Our high school went to an all-girls Catholic high school in Southern California, St. Lucy's, and we didn't have a debate team. But we did a lot of critical thinking. We did, the nuns there were amazing for some of the things, and I'll go through and do an episode, because they were just really amazing. I'll say the most amazing thing they did is there is a Buddhist monastery right next door, believe it or not, to where the high school was, and they made arrangements to take, I think it's your junior year, you go and you learn how to meditate, and you meditate with the monks. It was just really an amazing experience. That's diversity. That's understanding the commonality and finding that sacredness in all kinds of places, right? So I really love them for that. But what if you go to but not everybody wants that, right? Not everybody wants that diversity. I want the diversity, and to keep people safe. Okay, we have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.